All right, guys, today's a leg day. I'm gonna go heavy today. We're doing 4 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions. I'm gonna start by doing a warm-up set with some barbell squats. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not a big fan of barbell squats. And one of the main reasons is because when you're loading that weight on your back and you're doing a squat, if I have my body stand up nice and tall and straight, if I do this, I'm gonna actually end up going backwards because the weight's on my back more, okay? So what happens is most people when they're doing a barbell squat, they finish their squat by slightly leaning forward, and I want to actually be able to push my hips all the way through to get the full motion. So to give you an idea what I'm talking about is if I'm squatting here and I come down and that bar's my back and I stop here, I'm slightly bent here at the hips. There's a pushing forward motion I want. So what happens is it does allow me to engage the glutes all the way through the motion, which is like the powerhouse of a squat anyways. So I'm just doing this for a warm-up for the first exercise today, and then we get to doing heavy lunges, heavy step-ups. And if I want to incorporate a heavy squat, it's going to be front squats. When I put that weight in front of me now and I hold one dumbbell right here, now it forces me, because the weight's pulling down, to actually have to stand up and force back through the muscles that I want to use to do the hip thrust through it. So that's what I typically do for more of a heavy motion squat. So I'm going to start by doing some warm-up set here, and then we'll dive into each exercise after that. Second set done. I'm gonna keep bouncing up right now. I'm doing 55-pound dumbbells. I'm gonna go to 60 and then 65 for my next set. I'm trying to do 8 to 10 steps each leg for this part of it. All right, 65s are done. Moving to step-ups now. Something I do for step-ups today is typically, this is the box I use right here, but we're gonna switch it out to a little bigger box today. So, I'm not gonna be able to go as heavy because I am stepping up further, but to give you guys an idea, the difference, here is the box I'm using today and the height of the other box. So that's about 6 inches difference. So it's gonna be a little more difficult to step up, so I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. We'll have to determine the weights today to figure out where that's at for my heavy reps. All right, so before I dive into the step ups, let me talk about how I figure out where I need to be at for weight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick a weight, and my goal is to make sure I hit failure at the rep range I'm shooting for, which is 8 to 10 reps. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a weight. Now, let's say I grab 45-pound dumbbells. I do my step ups, and I'm gonna stop and ask myself when I'm done with the 10 reps, how many more reps could I do? If I can go anything above 10 reps, then I'm going to go up the next weight class. So in that case, from 45 to 50s. If I can't do any more, maybe I just hit failure right at that, I'm gonna stay with the weights that I have. But let's say, for example, I grab 45-pound dumbbells and I'm gonna do the 8 to 10 reps and I only get 6. That's too heavy. So I'm gonna go back down to 40s, do it again to see how I do, and kind of go from there to set that range. So since this is gonna be a new thing for step-ups with a bigger box today, a taller box, I'm gonna have to refigure out my weights today, but that's exactly how you're gonna do it. Let's get started with the step-ups. All right, so I just finished my first set of step-ups. I used 40-pound dumbbells, and one thing that I forgot to do was hit the record button so you guys can see that. But when I hit 10, I actually would stop and ask myself, how many reps could I do with my left leg? So I could do about 5 more roughly. So I'm always gonna evaluate with my other leg too, because we have 2 legs, right? So what if my right leg has a little bit of weakness to it compared to my left leg? And then I try to jump up just because my left leg is a little bit stronger. Well, the problem is, if I jump up, my right leg not be able to, and I'm gonna try to keep things more balanced, more symmetric. So I wanna build those evenly with that. So I'm not gonna do more weight with my left leg, less weight with my right leg. That just doesn't make any sense. So what I did is, I figured out what they were, which are pretty much even, about 5 reps extra is what I could have done. So now I'm gonna bump up to 45s for my next set, and I'm gonna find out how does that work. So let's say I do my reps, I barely get to 10. That's okay, but I'm still in the 8 to 10 rep range. But if I can't get 8 at all, then I need to go back down and make sure I stay within that rep range of 8 to 10 reps, because that's today's goal. So I'm gonna get started at number 2, and then I'll get 3 and 4 done. Now after I finish these step ups, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna move into doing, the next exercise is just gonna be heavily deadlifts. We're working on the hamstrings more, and then we're gonna move into calves after that exercise. So that'll finish up today's workout. So we're just kind of targeting a little bit of muscle groups today with the heavy exercise. And then my second workout for legs this week would be more endurance based, and I'll catch back up with you guys and show you that workout too. All right, so one thing, since I just did my left leg first, I'm gonna alternate now and go to my right leg first this time, and then go to my left leg next, because we are using the leg a little bit to kind of help power up some. So I like to switch it up, so we'll start with the same leg every time. All right, let's talk a little bit about deadlifts. So this is one of my favorite exercises to help strengthen the hamstrings, the glutes, that lower back. And this is kind of those areas that most people neglect. They end up spending more time on their quads, maybe doing like lunges, stuff like that, which incorporates more quads too, a little bit of glutes, some hamstrings, but we're trying to get more predominantly focused on hamstrings, glutes, and lower back moving together, because it is our powerhouse for coming back up. So again, going back to like a squat, if I squat down here like this, I want to come back up and push these back together, okay? So when you think about the hip, I want you to think about like a teeter-totter approach, okay? So in this case, a teeter-totter, imagine like you have a teeter-totter here, this is the center balance point right here, and if I have someone heavier on this side of the teeter-totter than this side, it's going to tip, right? That's kind of the key behind it, is the hips are going to tip in motion to move like this. Okay, so now what I want you to imagine with the teeter-totter now is, we have my forearm, which is like your quadricep. We have this forearm, which is gonna be like your hamstring, and they affect the teeter-totter approach. So as the teeter-totter raises here, this muscle is being stretched, and if teeter-totter goes this way, this one's being stretched as this one's being contracted. That's what we're trying to think about with doing a squat or movement through our hips. So to give you an idea, here's a teeter-totter here, and as I go down, I'm going to shorten my quads as I'm lengthening through the hamstrings. As the butt rotates up, it's pulling this muscle back here longer. And when I come back up, I'm gonna try to rotate my butt underneath of the body, which is why I want that glute to be able to squeeze forward and rotate that pelvic tilt as I contract the hamstring to pull it back down. At the same time, my glute's contracting, and then my lower back's being stabilized, kind of like doing like a plank in a way. My back's holding an isometric contraction, that's why I feel it in your lower back. So it's not really lifting, it's not contracting and lifting like that. It's just saying that plank position where it's contracted the whole time and it's gonna hold there, okay? So in this case, when doing a deadlift, I wanna focus on using the hamstring muscles with the glutes and isometric hold that lower back, but I also wanna focus on my legs, and the front is kind of like a track, and my hands are gonna run along that track. So in a deadlift this way, this is a stiff leg deadlift, I'm gonna slide my hands down my legs. As you notice, as I'm pushing my butt backwards and I'm trying to bring the back of the teeter-totter up towards the ceiling as I go down. And as I come back up, I'm then going to drag my hands back up that track again as I push through, bringing the hip all the way through and trying to drop the teeter-totter in the back down, so I'm using the hamstrings, okay? So that's the key behind doing deadlifts. So while you're doing this, you should be moving through your back, okay? So if the back looks like this is what you don't want. So as I go down, my back kind of arches, and I'm lifting through my back, and I'm going back down here, and then back up. That's all back. If you noticed, if you actually pause it and go back and watch again, I hardly even bent through my hips at all because I was using all lower back. That's not what you want. You're actually folding through the hip. You're doing what's called a hip hinge. A hip hinge is going to allow you to bend through the hip. So imagine like someone had a rubber band here, and they're gonna pull my hips back. They're gonna pull it back like this here. I'm hinging through the hip, and as I come back up and try to imagine like that rubber band's here, and they're holding it back here, and I'm gonna push against it as they're trying to fight me to pull me back again. That is a hip hinge, okay? So that's the motion you should have. So what we're gonna try to do is lock that lower back into a tight position. So as I go down, I wanna keep my back in this arch position right here, because my back's isometrically holding as I come here, as I come back up, I squeeze through my glutes. As I come back down, that back's isometrically holding again. So I'm not loading the weight by moving through my back. I'm just loading by holding isometrically through that back as I move through the deadlift position, okay? All right, so I'm gonna finish up my next 3 sets of this, and then we're gonna move on to some calf exercises today. All right, so at the end of that there, my hands start to slip. It's hard to hold on to 100-pound dumbbells, so usually I use straps. I was just lazy to go grab them, but a strap is something that goes around your wrist. It's gonna have a little flap out, they can roll around the weight. When you grip it, it allows you to actually just hold the strap, which puts all the weight through your wrist. You don't have it through your fingertips. It makes it easier to hold on to. So in a future video, I'll show you how to use those. Okay guys, so this exercise we're gonna work calves. Now I'm gonna work a straight leg calf. I don't have a way to do this that's gonna create a heavier motion for it besides using this leg press here. So typically if I do a body weight exercise, I'm just gonna lift my body weight, right? I could take and do one-legged, which would be my body weight, but we're gonna try to get a little bit more weight with doing the stack here. So that's the first exercise we're gonna do. Then we're gonna move to doing bent-legged calf raises. There is a difference between the two. When we do a straight leg calf raise, it's working more of the actual ball of the calf itself here. But when we do a bent leg, it's working more of the what's called the soleus. It's a longer muscle of the calf that goes all the way down to your Achilles tendon area there. So we do want to work both ranges of motion when we're doing calf raises. So this one here, I'm going to focus on doing a straight leg calf raise here. So my legs going to be straight out. I'm going to keep a slight bend in my knees, just hold it right there. Let my toes come back as far as I can, and I'm going to push through the balls of my feet, pushing away, squeeze those calf muscles, come back in, and then push again. Now what I'm going to do is, because calves like to respond for real slow motion and really getting that range of motion, so letting the calves come all the way back and then pushing through again. I'm going to try to knock out as many as I can since I'm maxing this out weight here, which is 480. So I could add the side ones, but right now I'm just going to go as slow as I can controlled and try to really focus on just contracting through those calves, squeezing and sometimes holding it like this here, come back and do that motion. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to seated calf here, and I got to load some weight on this too, but I'm just going to show you how to do this, and then I'm going to kill this workout today so I can get this edited and sent out to you guys to utilize as a workout if you want. Now this one here is a seated calf, and you guys could do this at a gym even if you don't have one. You just take some plates and put it on your knees, put a board or something underneath your calves, and then you're doing the same kind of motion. So let me show you what this looks like, and then I'm going to get back to my workout here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, in this case, load on some weights. So I'm going to probably throw another 245s on top of this weight here. And again, same thing, slow motion, focus on contracting those muscles of the calves, and just really focus on getting the stretch and the contraction of the muscle itself. So I'm going to lift up here. I'm going to drop down as far as I can right here like this, and then come back up and squeeze to the top. Again, I'm going to add more weight, so I'm not going to do more reps. But I do want to point out that if you guys don't have access to a seated calf machine at home, or maybe you don't have one at the gym that you go to, you can just take weights, put them on top of your lap, put them more towards the front of your knees if you can, so you're lifting through it. Put a board on the floor, and you can do that same concept where I'm lifting this as the weights now instead of being out there. And that will give you that motion you're looking for, okay? All right, so that's gonna finish up my workout once I finish these 2 stations. I'm still gonna shoot for probably 8-10 reps, but if I can do more, I'm gonna go to complete failure because I'm maxing out that machine over there. Where this one right here, I can keep loading a bunch of weight on there, and definitely gonna hit failure because there's no way I can do all the 45s on this on both sides if that's the case. But I'm gonna try to get as many reps as I can. Otherwise, here I'm gonna save for the 8 to 10 rep range, doing 3 to 4 sets for this one here, and I'll finish up today's workout. See you next time.